The year is 2025. Former President Donald Trump, back in the Oval Office after a 4-year hiatus, has unleashed a storm of tariffs, echoing his aggressive trade policies from his first term. The average tariff rate on all imports is projected to skyrocket to 16.5%, a level unseen since the protectionist policies of the 1930s. This dramatic shift has sent shockwaves through the global economy, prompting retaliation from major trading partners like China, Canada, and the European Union. Trump's signature policy, a universal tariff ranging from 10 to 20%, coupled with a staggering 60% tariff on Chinese imports, has escalated trade tensions to new heights. This protectionist stance, while popular with some segments of the American public, has drawn sharp criticism from economists and business leaders who warn of dire consequences for the U.S. economy. The Tax Foundation, a nonpartisan tax policy research organization, projects a bleak outlook with significant hits to GDP, household income, and long-term economic growth. The stated goal of these tariffs is to protect American jobs and industries from unfair foreign competition. The Trump administration argues that these measures are necessary to revitalize the manufacturing sector and bring back jobs that have been lost to globalization. However, the Tax Foundation's analysis paints a different picture. Their projections suggest that the tariffs, while generating short-term gains in federal tax revenue, will ultimately harm American businesses and consumers. The increased costs of imported goods are likely to be passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices, eroding purchasing power and slowing economic growth. The Tax Foundation's 2025 projections paint a stark picture of the potential economic fallout from Trump's tariffs. The most alarming prediction is a 0.7% contraction in GDP attributed directly to the tariffs, with an additional 0.1% decline due to retaliatory measures from trading partners. This decline in GDP represents a significant blow to the overall economy, potentially wiping out billions of dollars in economic output. The impact on international trade is even more pronounced. Imports are projected to plummet by a staggering $800 billion, a 25% decrease from 2024 levels. While the administration argues that this will boost domestic production, the reality is more complex. Many American businesses rely on imported components and raw materials, and the tariffs will inevitably disrupt supply chains and increase production costs. Perhaps the most concerning aspect of the Tax Foundation's analysis is the projected impact on American households. After-tax income is expected to decrease by an average of 1.9%, translating to a $1,900 annual hit for the typical household. This decline in income will be felt most acutely by low and middle-income families, who spend a larger portion of their income on goods and services impacted by the tariffs. The tariffs' ripple effects are likely to extend beyond these immediate economic indicators. The uncertainty surrounding trade policy could dampen business investment and hiring, further hindering economic growth. Moreover, the tariffs risk triggering a global trade war as countries retaliate with their own protectionist measures, leading to a downward spiral in global trade and economic activity. While the economic outlook appears bleak, there is one area where the tariffs appear to provide a short-term boost: federal tax revenue. The Tax Foundation projects that the tariffs will generate a staggering $258.4 billion in additional revenue in 2025 alone, representing a 0.85% increase in GDP. This would be the largest tax hike since 1982, potentially providing the administration with a windfall to fund its priorities. However, this revenue increase comes at a steep cost. The tariffs are essentially a hidden tax on American businesses and consumers, who will bear the brunt of the higher prices for imported goods. This increased tax burden will disproportionately impact lower-income households, who spend a larger share of their income on consumer goods. Moreover, the long-term impact on federal revenue is less certain. The Tax Foundation's dynamic estimate, which accounts for the negative economic effects of the tariffs, projects a more modest revenue increase of $2.3 trillion over the next decade. This suggests that the initial revenue windfall may be short-lived as the tariffs' economic damage takes hold. The increase in federal tax revenue also raises concerns about fiscal responsibility. Instead of using the additional revenue to reduce the deficit or invest in infrastructure and education, the administration may be tempted to use it for short-term political gains or to fund unsustainable tax cuts. This could further exacerbate income inequality and undermine long-term economic growth. The current trade war initiated by the Trump administration is not without precedent. History is replete with examples of governments resorting to protectionist measures, often with disastrous consequences. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, passed during the Great Depression, is a prime example of how tariffs can backfire. The act, which raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods, is widely believed to have exacerbated the Depression by triggering a global trade war and deepening the economic downturn. Similarly, the chicken tax of 1963, imposed by the United States on light trucks imported from Europe, illustrates how tariffs can have unintended and long-lasting consequences. The tax, initially intended as a temporary measure, remains in effect today, distorting the automotive market and contributing to higher prices for American consumers. These historical examples highlight the dangers of protectionism and the unintended consequences of interfering with free trade. Tariffs, while seemingly appealing as a quick fix for domestic economic woes, often lead to higher prices for consumers, reduced economic growth, and retaliatory measures from trading partners. The current trade war initiated by the Trump administration, with its escalating tariffs and threats of further protectionist measures, threatens to repeat the mistakes of the past. The potential economic fallout, as projected by the Tax Foundation and other economic analysts, should serve as a stark warning against pursuing such policies. History teaches us that free and fair trade, not protectionism, is the surest path to economic prosperity.